The universe only sends this video to women who are entering their most powerful phase. When a woman realizes her worth, the universe rearranges itself to match her new frequency. This isn't just poetic truth, it's energetic law. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where we explore the moments when destiny whispers, and you begin to feel that something within you is shifting. This video reveals why certain women are being called into their most powerful phase, when synchronicities, intuition, and transformation align to awaken their deepest strength. As you watch, reflect on how these signs are unfolding in your own life. Have you noticed the universe sending you messages lately? Share your experiences in the comments below, because your story might inspire another woman stepping into her power. 1. Synchronicity marks the spiritual awakening. When a woman encounters a message like this, it's never random, it's synchronicity. Carl Jung described this as the mysterious intersection where inner transformation meets outer reality. It's the moment when the soul's vibration changes, and the universe mirrors that shift through subtle yet powerful signs. You may feel as though something invisible is guiding you toward truths you were always meant to discover. That feeling isn't imagination. It's the sacred response of the cosmos to your spiritual awakening. Every time a woman begins to awaken, her energy starts to communicate with life itself, sending ripples through everything she touches, aligning her with what her soul is finally ready to receive. In spirituality, synchronicity is how the universe speaks to you. It takes the invisible language of energy and translates it into moments that feel too precise to be coincidences. You notice repeated numbers, familiar songs at perfect timing, or messages that echo your innermost thoughts. These signs are confirmations, subtle reflections of your evolution. They remind you that your consciousness has expanded beyond the surface, and the outer world now bends to the rhythm of your inner world. Carl Jung taught that when the unconscious becomes active, it reorganizes your perception of reality. What used to feel like chaos begins to reveal hidden order. You start realizing that life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. As your awareness deepens, the universe begins to rearrange your reality. People who no longer align with your vibration slowly drift away, and new connections, opportunities, and experiences appear effortlessly. This transition may feel unsettling at first, but it is the very proof that your spiritual energy is ascending. Spiritual awakening is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath conditioning, fear, and self-doubt. Each moment of awareness acts like a spark that lights up the path ahead, showing you that every detour, delay, and disappointment was part of a higher orchestration guiding you toward your authentic self. When this shift occurs, your desires change. You no longer chase validation or cling to chaos. Instead, you crave peace, depth, and truth. You begin to understand that your power doesn't come from control, but from alignment. You no longer force outcomes. You allow them. You no longer beg for love. You radiate it. This is the quiet revolution of a spiritually awakened woman. Her strength becomes invisible, yet undeniable. She vibrates on a level where only authenticity survives. Every act of letting go becomes an act of creation, and every moment of solitude becomes a sanctuary of rebirth. Synchronicity, then, is not luck, it's resonance. It is the universe's way of acknowledging your readiness. When your energy harmonizes with divine timing, guidance arrives effortlessly. The right words, encounters, and experiences unfold as if written just for you. What once felt like coincidence now feels like destiny. This is the sacred dialogue between your soul and the universe, the proof that your inner world and outer reality are not separate, but reflections of the same divine consciousness moving through you. In this realization, you embody your most powerful phase, aware, aligned, and fully awakened to the truth that the universe does not send you random messages. It responds to the woman you have become. Do you feel the synchronicity calling you? If you do, declare it with faith and power in the comments. I am awakening, and the universe is aligning with me. 2. The false self must die for the true self to rise. This phase begins when everything you thought you were starts to crumble. The identities you once wore with pride, the caretaker, the achiever, the pleaser, the strong one, begin to feel like heavy costumes you can no longer carry. You may feel physically drained, emotionally detached, or deeply confused, as if life has stripped you bare. But what's really happening is far more profound. The psyche is declaring that it can no longer sustain the false self. This collapse is not your failure, it's your initiation. It is the universe's way of preparing you for the rise of your true essence. Carl Jung called this process the death of the persona, the symbolic shedding of all illusions that once defined who you were. When the false self dies, the soul finally breathes freely, and the journey of spiritual development begins. You begin to sense that the world you once built no longer fits. The conversations that once entertained you feel shallow. The ambitions that once fueled you seem meaningless. And the relationships that once defined you start to dissolve. This disorientation is sacred. It's your spirit untangling from the noise of conformity. The woman you used to be, who tolerated disrespect, who silenced her voice to keep the peace, who chased validation instead of truth, is fading. And though this transition feels like loss, it is actually liberation. Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." You are being pushed to evolve beyond superficial roles and into the wholeness of your being. This is not a punishment. It's a spiritual refinement, stripping away what is false so that your true light can finally emerge. In this silence, you start to meet yourself again. It's not an easy reunion. You will notice parts of you that you've buried under years of pretending, the intuitive voice you ignored, the dreams you postponed, the wild spirit you tried to tame. But as you reconnect with these forgotten aspects, something miraculous happens. The emptiness turns into peace. What felt like destruction becomes rebirth. Your energy begins to stabilize, your emotions align, and your intuition starts to guide you again. This is spirituality in its truest form, not an idea or philosophy, but a direct experience of transformation. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you've always been beneath the layers of survival. During this process, you will notice synchronicities appearing, numbers repeating, songs that echo your emotions, strangers who deliver perfect messages at the right time. These are not coincidences. They are signs from the universe confirming your realignment. Jung described this phenomenon as synchronicity, the intersection between inner change and outer reality. When you see these signs, understand that your vibration has shifted and the external world is beginning to mirror your inner awakening. Every coincidence is a divine echo, reassuring you that you are no longer living unconsciously, but consciously co-creating with the universe. This transformation demands courage, for the false self does not surrender easily. It clings, whispers, and tempts you back into old patterns of fear and familiarity. But the soul knows the way forward. The more you trust the unraveling, the more power returns to you. You begin to understand that spirituality is not about rising above your humanity. It's about integrating it with grace. True spiritual development comes when you stop seeking validation from others and begin honoring your own sacred truth. The universe sends this phase only to women who are ready to awaken, who have outgrown survival and are being called into creation. The pain, the confusion, the solitude are not random. They are the signs that the old structure of your life is dissolving, so that something infinitely more authentic can emerge. The false self must die for the true self to rise. And from that rising comes a power so serene, so unshakable, that no external force can ever define you again. Are you ready to let go of your false self and rise into your true power? If you are, comment below, "I am rising," to affirm your transformation and inspire other women stepping into their most powerful phase. 3. Withdrawal is incubation, not depression. Withdrawal is not a collapse. It is a sacred incubation, a divine process where your soul begins to recreate itself in silence. When life starts to pull you inward, when you feel exhausted by noise, and when solitude becomes your only safe place, understand that this is not depression, it is transformation. As Carl Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. You are not falling apart, you are being reassembled into a more powerful version of yourself. This retreat is a womb of spiritual wisdom, where the old layers of your identity quietly dissolve to make space for something far more authentic. The woman you were is no longer enough for the life your soul is preparing to live, and so the universe gently isolates you, not as punishment, but as protection, giving you time to grow unseen until you are ready to rise again. As your energy shifts, you begin to notice a deep disconnection from things and people that once felt familiar. It's not rejection, it's redirection. Jung believed that solitude is essential for individuation, the process of becoming whole. The discomfort you feel in this stillness is the soul stretching into new dimensions of itself. You are shedding the weight of old expectations, outdated attachments, and borrowed identities. You are no longer trying to fit into spaces that diminish your frequency because you are learning that peace is more valuable than approval. Every woman who rises must first withdraw. You are in the sacred, in between the space where your old self dies, so your true self can finally breathe. In this womb of silence, nothing may seem to move on the surface, but deep within, divine activity is taking place. Like a seed buried beneath the soil, your transformation happens in the dark, away from the world's eyes. You are being prepared for alignment, for deeper intuition, for an unshakable awareness of who you are. Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Your awakening is happening not through doing, but through being. Each quiet day, each moment of fatigue, each tear shed in solitude is not a setback. It is sacred work. You are learning to sit with yourself, to hold your emotions, to trust your inner rhythm rather than the external pace of the world. This is not isolation. It is initiation. The universe calls certain women into this silence because they are meant to carry greater light. You are being emptied so that truth can fill you. When you stop trying to explain yourself, when you no longer need others to understand your journey, you step into a state of inner authority. Your energy starts to speak louder than your words. You no longer chase connection. You attract it effortlessly. This is the rebirth of feminine power, the soft, magnetic strength that doesn't seek validation but radiates from within. So when your spirit feels weary or withdrawn, remember, you are not broken, you are becoming. Your solitude is not a void. It is a sacred space where your next chapter is being written by the hands of the divine. 4. Archetypal transformation. From maiden to queen. The transition from seeking validation to embodying inner authority is the sacred metamorphosis of the soul. The passage from the maiden, who is defined by the world, to the queen, who defines herself. This transformation is not bound by time or age, but by spiritual readiness. A moment when a woman's consciousness begins to shift from dependence on the external to trust in the internal. The maiden looks outward for reflection, love, and approval, while the queen turns inward and realizes she was always the mirror, always the source. In this stage of spiritual awakening, her energy begins to circulate differently, no longer leaking into the opinions of others, but moving like an unshakable current of divine awareness within her. Carl Jung saw such changes as archetypal patterns of the psyche, representing not just growth, but initiation. The queen archetype is the full embodiment of a woman who has integrated her shadows and reclaimed her power without apology. She is no longer fragmented between who she was told to be and who she truly is. Her presence carries authority without force, grace without submission, strength without aggression. She no longer performs, she emanates. She no longer pleads to be chosen. She understands she was never unworthy in the first place. Her sovereignty is spiritual, not social. It radiates from a consciousness aligned with truth, purpose, and divine timing. This shift often begins in silence. The world that once validated her now feels too small for her spirit. The friendships that once felt comforting may start to dissolve, and she may find herself walking alone, yet not lonely. Solitude becomes her temple, her initiation into higher wisdom. It is here that she learns to listen not to noise, but to knowing, to the subtle voice of her own intuition that whispers what logic cannot comprehend. She begins to trust the flow of energy rather than the structure of control, realizing that every ending is merely an energetic reconfiguration, preparing her for the next level of consciousness. The Queen's ascension is not without trial. She must release the old identities that no longer serve her as the people-pleaser, the caretaker, the conformist. Each layer of release feels like death, yet it is rebirth in disguise. She learns to hold her emotions without drowning in them, to set boundaries without guilt, and to speak truth without fear of rejection. This is where spiritual wisdom deepens. She understands that everything she loses is simply energy returning to source, creating space for higher alignment. In this sacred process, she becomes both the student and the teacher of her own transformation. By the time the woman fully steps into her queen energy, she no longer asks, "Am I enough?" because she knows that her very existence is proof of divine design. The universe no longer tests her with lessons of validation, but blesses her with opportunities of creation. her life begins to mirror her inner peace. Her words carry the vibration of authority, not because she demands respect, but because she embodies it. The Queen is the living expression of consciousness, a matured being who leads not from the crown on her head, but from the calm throne of her heart. And so, the journey from maiden to queen is the essence of spirituality itself, a return from fragmentation to wholeness, from dependency to divine autonomy. It is not a linear climb, but a spiral of remembrance, where each revolution brings her closer to her truth. The woman who completes this transformation does not conquer the world, she becomes it. She stands as a beacon of awakened energy, a reflection of the universe in human form, no longer needing to prove her light, because she finally understands she is the light. If this message resonates with your soul, and you feel the Queen within awakening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your reflections in the comments below. Let's rise together in this journey of spiritual transformation. 5. Shadow integration unlocks true power. Shadow integration is the process of reclaiming everything you were once told to hide, reject, or silence within yourself. As a woman, you may have been conditioned to suppress your anger, ambition, sexual autonomy, and assertiveness because society often equated softness with goodness and compliance with virtue. But these qualities are not flaws. They are fragments of your original wholeness waiting to be brought back into harmony. The truth is that your shadow is not evil. It is simply unacknowledged energy. When you integrate these suppressed parts, instead of denying them, you unlock a source of power that feels both grounded and magnetic. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." In this light, true spirituality is not about transcending your humanity, but about illuminating it, transforming inner conflict into inner coherence. Anger, when integrated, becomes clarity. It teaches you where your boundaries lie and protects your energy from being misused. Ambition, once demonized as arrogance, becomes the fuel of your purpose, reminding you that desiring expansion is not greed. It is life expressing itself through you. Sexual autonomy evolves from taboo into sacred ownership of your body and desires, aligning you with the natural rhythm of creation. Assertiveness transforms from rebellion into self-respect, allowing you to express your truth without aggression. None of these traits make you harsh. They make you authentic. And authenticity is what makes a woman deeply magnetic, because she radiates integrity instead of insecurity. As your spirituality matures, your spiritual development no longer revolves around being good in the eyes of others, but being whole in the eyes of your own soul. You begin to see that enlightenment is not a halo. It is integration. You can meditate for hours, repeat affirmations, and recite prayers, but without meeting the parts of yourself you've hidden, your light remains incomplete. To live spiritually is to live truthfully, to allow the divine and the human to coexist in the same breath. This is why shadow work is not a descent into darkness, but a reclamation of light. Every emotion you once judged as wrong has wisdom to offer. Every desire you buried holds a key to your potential. The more you own your truth, the less you need to perform goodness, because peace replaces pretense. When you begin this work, life starts to reorganize itself around your newfound alignment. People who once disrespected your boundaries will either evolve with you or fade away. Opportunities that once felt out of reach will begin to appear naturally because your energy no longer repels what's meant for you. You move from chasing to attracting, from pleasing to leading, from fragmentation to flow. This is what it means to embody spiritual wisdom, to be both soft and strong, intuitive yet grounded, receptive yet commanding. You stop apologizing for existing fully. You become a mirror that reflects what divine balance truly looks like in human form. The lesson is simple but profound. Your shadow was never your enemy. It was your unlived life calling for expression. Integrating it does not make you less spiritual. It completes your spiritual development. Remember, anger is your boundaries' voice. Ambition is your creative fire. Sexual autonomy is your sacred right. And assertiveness is your truth in motion. Honor them all, and you will discover that your power was never lost. It was simply waiting for your permission to return. 6. Individuation is a sacred, solitary journey. Real transformation doesn't crave applause, validation, or recognition. It unfolds quietly in the sacred solitude of self-realization. You begin to sense that this journey isn't about becoming someone new, but about remembering who you've always been beneath the noise of expectation. Individuation, as Carl Jung called it, is the soul's rebellion against imitation. It's the moment you stop seeking permission to exist and start inhabiting the fullness of who you already are. You realize that true peace doesn't come from pleasing others or fitting into old molds. It comes from the courage to stand alone in your truth. The applause you once longed for begins to sound hollow because you've discovered something far deeper than approval: the unshakable serenity of authenticity. There comes a time when the woman who once sought belonging realizes she is already home within herself. She no longer performs to be loved or dilutes her power to be accepted. She detaches from patriarchal validation, not with anger, but with clarity, understanding that her worth was never meant to be negotiated. She becomes psychologically sovereign. Her emotions, her body, and her choices no longer subject to external judgment. In this silence, she begins to hear her true voice again, the voice that doesn't shout, but whispers direction with calm certainty. And in following that inner compass, she finds that solitude is not punishment, it is purification. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." To embody that truth, you must first unlearn the layers that were never yours, the expectations, the guilt, the roles that trained you to shrink. You begin to see that real power doesn't dominate, it radiates. You walk differently, speak differently, even breathe differently, because your energy is no longer fractured by the need to prove. Spiritual wisdom teaches that this kind of transformation happens in stillness, not noise. You don't chase your destiny. You align with it. You don't beg for respect. Your energy commands it. As you evolve, you stop mistaking detachment for indifference. You understand that boundaries are not walls. They are gates of sacred discernment. You no longer rush to explain, justify, or convince, because peace has become more valuable than being understood. You see how much energy was once spent trying to please people who never truly saw you. Now that same energy becomes fuel for your creativity, your healing, your calling. The more you honor yourself, the more the universe rearranges itself to honor you in return. Synchronicities appear in what Jung described as meaningful coincidences, reminding you that the outer world mirrors your inner alignment. you begin to notice that your calm unsettles those still at war with themselves, but you no longer take that personally. Your silence speaks louder than defense, and your presence carries an authority that doesn't need to demand. This is the sacred, solitary road to individuation, where you finally understand that being alone is not the absence of love, but the presence of self. As you walk it, you transform not through effort, but through surrender. You stop trying to fix, control, or chase, and instead, you simply embody. Because once a woman becomes whole, she no longer needs the world to validate her existence. She becomes the validation herself. Have you ever walked the path of solitude and found strength within it? If you've experienced this sacred journey, share your story in the comments below so others may be inspired. And if you're just beginning, comment, "I am ready," to honor your own path of individuation. 7. Your evolution heals the collective. This is not a coincidence. It is a sacred confirmation. Every woman who begins to awaken is not merely changing her own life. She is shifting the vibration of the entire collective feminine. When your spirit heals, it sends invisible ripples through the timeline of your ancestry and forward into generations yet unborn. The ache you once carried is being rewritten into light, because your personal healing is the medicine that countless others have prayed for. Spirituality, at its essence, reveals that everything is connected. So when you rise, the feminine within the collective rises too. The patterns that once held your lineage in silence, fear, or self-doubt are dissolving as you awaken to your truth. This is how the universe speaks through transformation that begins in one soul, but echoes across time. You are entering your most powerful phase, the season when you stop apologizing for your light and start understanding that power does not mean control, it means alignment. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that is exactly what your awakening is doing, turning old fate into new freedom. What once triggered you now teaches you. What once broke you now builds you. This is not weakness, it is initiation. The universe didn't send this message to convince you, but to confirm that you are remembering who you truly are, a woman whose energy reshapes reality. Your spiritual awakening is not about escaping pain. It's about transmuting it. The suffering of the past becomes the soil where wisdom grows. When you learn to feel without drowning, speak without fear, and love without losing yourself, you restore harmony to both your inner world and the collective feminine field. The universe celebrates every boundary you set, every truth you speak, and every act of self-respect you practice, because those are signals of evolution. And evolution is contagious. Your authenticity inspires others to wake up, to question, to heal, to rise. Notice how life now mirrors your growth. The conversations that drain you begin to fade, and the people who vibrate with your new frequency suddenly appear. That's not coincidence. That's energy, aligning with energy. Your body feels it too. Your breath steadies, your creativity flows again, and peace begins to feel familiar. This is spirituality in motion, a return to wholeness, a remembering that your worth was never lost. As your light stabilizes, your presence becomes medicine. Without forcing anyone to change, you change everything around you simply by being. So when the universe whispers, "Keep going," it's reminding you that your journey is not just personal, it's archetypal. You are living proof that healing is possible. that softness and strength can coexist, that love is not weakness, but the highest intelligence. Through your evolution, generations heal. Through your courage, the collective awakens. Through your faith, the future becomes brighter. You are not alone. You are the living embodiment of divine timing, and the universe moves through you as it says once more, keep going. You are entering your most powerful phase, and the world feels it. As you step into this powerful new phase of your life, remember nothing that's unfolding is random. The universe is aligning perfectly with your inner transformation, revealing the strength, wisdom, and grace you were always meant to embody. Trust the timing of your awakening and walk boldly into your purpose. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos that continue to guide your journey of spiritual awakening and self-mastery. When your mind becomes so powerful, it terrifies the world. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Have you ever realized how powerful your mind truly is, so powerful that it can shape reality itself? In today's video, when your mind becomes so powerful, it terrifies the world. Carl Jung's hidden truth. We'll explore what happens when consciousness reaches a level that challenges the very foundation of society's illusions. Your mind, when awakened, becomes a mirror that reflects truth, and that truth can both enlighten and unsettle those still asleep. As you listen, I invite you to look within and ask yourself, are you using your thoughts to create or allowing them to control you? Share your reflections in the comments below, and let's grow together on this journey of spiritual wisdom. 1. True strength comes from self-understanding, not avoidance. People who appear invincible are not born stronger. They have simply learned to understand themselves more deeply. As Carl Jung wisely said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This truth lies at the heart of spirituality and every spiritual awakening. Power does not come from avoidance, but from self-awareness. When you face the hidden corners of your mind, instead of running from them, you begin to uncover the source of your strength. The darkness you once feared becomes your greatest teacher, revealing that every fear holds a message, every wound hides wisdom, and every shadow carries light waiting to be reclaimed. The more deeply you understand yourself, the less power the world has over you. Most people live as prisoners of their own unconscious mind, reacting to situations without realizing that it is their inner patterns shaping their reality. They blame luck, destiny, or others for their suffering, never realizing that the true battlefield lies within. But those who awaken spiritually begin to see that freedom does not come from controlling life. It comes from mastering one's inner state. They stop blaming fate and instead illuminate their own psyche, bringing awareness to what was once hidden. When you make peace with your inner world, the outer world can no longer disturb you, because you finally understand that chaos only reflects what still needs to be healed inside. The mind becomes powerful, not by dominating others, but by understanding itself. Those who have faced their fears walk with a calm strength that needs no validation. They no longer seek approval or cling to control. They embody presence, Their power frightens others, not because it is dark, but because it is pure. In a world where most people wear masks, authenticity becomes revolutionary. True spiritual awakening strips away pretense and reveals the silent authority of a soul that knows itself. This is the strength that terrifies the world. The strength of a person who cannot be manipulated because they have already befriended their own shadow. The journey of self-understanding is not easy. It requires courage to look into your fears, patience to sit with your emotions, and humility to admit what you once denied. But as you move deeper into awareness, you begin to notice a sacred balance between your light and your darkness. You no longer reject parts of yourself, you integrate them. This integration births true harmony, where strength no longer comes from resistance, but from acceptance. You realize that every obstacle is a mirror, every person a reflection, and every challenge a teacher guiding you toward inner truth. When your mind reaches this state of clarity, you no longer fight the world, you flow with it. You stop reacting to noise and begin to act from stillness. The opinions of others lose their grip because you no longer seek to prove yourself. Your energy becomes focused, your presence becomes magnetic, and your peace becomes unshakable. This is the ultimate sign of spiritual maturity: to move through life with an open heart and a steady mind, knowing that the real enemy was never outside you, but within you. And when you finally master that, your mind becomes so powerful that it terrifies the world not through force, but through the serenity of knowing who you truly are. Comment below: I understand my power. If you're ready to stop running from your emotions and start mastering them. 2. Recognizing the shadow, the source of inner power. The shadow, as Carl Jung revealed, is the unseen realm within your psyche, the hidden dimension where your suppressed emotions, envy, fears, and forbidden desires quietly reside. It is the mirror that reflects everything you've been taught to reject, the impulses you've labeled as wrong, and the pain you've buried beneath your identity. Yet in spirituality and spiritual development, true transformation begins not with denial, but with awareness. When you suppress the shadow, it doesn't fade. It grows in silence, shaping your behavior, decisions, and emotions from behind the curtain. But when you turn toward it, acknowledging it with courage and compassion, you reclaim the power that was once lost to fear. Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That is the secret of real spiritual power, not the escape from darkness, but the embrace of it. Every emotion you repress is a message from your soul waiting to be heard. Anger reveals the places where your boundaries have been violated. Envy shows you the desires you've been too afraid to pursue. Fear exposes the parts of you that long for faith and courage. And sadness unveils the depth of your capacity to love. These emotions are not enemies of your light, but the very doorways that lead you toward it. In spiritual development, the path of awakening is not paved with constant positivity, but with raw honesty. Pain, jealousy, and shame are not punishments. They are teachers. The deeper you allow yourself to feel them, the more you discover the hidden wisdom they contain. To reject your pain is to reject your evolution, but to face it is to transform it into strength. Integrating the shadow means bringing all the lost, wounded, and misunderstood parts of yourself back into harmony. It means saying to yourself, "I am both the storm and the calm that follows. Through this sacred union of light and darkness, you begin to cultivate self-mastery. Emotional maturity is not born from suppression, but from understanding. The person who has embraced their shadow becomes unshakable because they no longer fear what is within them. They have looked into their own darkness and found light waiting there. And in doing so, they gain a peace that no external force can disturb. In spirituality, light and darkness are not opposites. They are partners in your evolution. The light reveals truth, while the darkness strengthens it. Spiritual development is not about purity, it is about wholeness. When you accept your flaws as part of your sacred design, you dissolve shame and discover freedom. Power does not come from pretending to be good, it comes from being whole. The shadow you once ran from becomes the fire that fuels your transformation. When you no longer resist your negativity, but transmute it into wisdom, you step into a state of balance where nothing external can dominate you. The mind that has made peace with its own shadow is a force that terrifies the world because it cannot be manipulated by fear or controlled by illusion. Such a mind radiates quiet strength, calm authority, and deep compassion, a power born not from domination, but from understanding. This is the mastery of inner alchemy, where every wound becomes wisdom, every shadow becomes light, and every struggle becomes a step towards spiritual freedom. Are you ready to face your own shadow and discover the true source of your inner power? If so, comment below. I embrace my shadow to begin this powerful journey of transformation and spiritual awakening. 3. Overcoming the victim archetype, reclaiming personal power. Most people don't realize how often they unconsciously fall into the victim archetype, blaming others, society, or fate for their pain, as if life happens to them and not through them. But as Carl Jung taught, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. This truth from Jung's spiritual wisdom reminds you that while pain is inevitable, remaining powerless is a choice. The victim archetype isn't inherently bad. It has two sides, the light and the dark. In its light, it teaches empathy, compassion, and deep awareness of human suffering. It helps you understand others, connect on a soul level, and recognize your own wounds as pathways to growth. But in its dark aspect, it feeds on self-pity, dependency, and the constant need to be saved. When you let the shadow side dominate, you unconsciously hand your power away to others, convincing yourself that you can't change your situation because the world is unfair. True spiritual awakening begins the moment you stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" When your mind becomes aware of the game the victim plays, you begin to reclaim the throne of your inner kingdom. The first step to freedom is recognizing I've been playing the victim, not as an act of shame, but as an act of awakening. This self-honesty is what Jung called the alchemical process of the soul, the transformation of suffering into purpose, of wounds into wisdom, of darkness into light. Every time you take responsibility for your emotions instead of blaming others, you turn your pain into power. Responsibility doesn't mean self-blame. It means remembering that you are the creator of meaning in every experience. It means realizing that even in chaos, you hold the power to interpret your story differently. Carl Jung believed that the human psyche evolves through confronting the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or project onto others. When you constantly see yourself as a victim, you are projecting your inner power outward, giving others the authority to define your worth. But when you reclaim it, when you say, "This happened, but it does not define me," you awaken the hero within the higher self that knows how to rise, rebuild, and rewrite the narrative. The world fears those whose minds are powerful enough to transmute pain into wisdom, because they can no longer be controlled by fear, manipulation, or guilt. That is why a mind awakened through suffering terrifies the world. It cannot be broken. In spiritual wisdom, this transformation is the true alchemy, taking the lead of suffering and turning it into the gold of consciousness. Your pain was never a punishment. It was an initiation. Life was never against you. It was trying to show you your own strength. The moment you understand this, you stop waiting for someone to rescue you and instead become the savior of your own story. So remember, no one is coming to free you because freedom was never outside you. It has always lived within your awareness, waiting for you to wake up and claim it. The lesson here is simple but profound. When you stop identifying as the victim and start living as the creator, your mind becomes so powerful that it no longer seeks validation. It radiates sovereignty. And that, as Carl Jung revealed, is when the soul finally remembers who it truly is. If this message speaks to your soul, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Your journey of reclaiming your personal power and transcending the victim archetype continues with every insight we share. 4. Accessing the collective unconscious. Tapping humanity's deep wisdom. Beneath the surface of your individual thoughts lies an ancient ocean of consciousness that Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, a vast reservoir of spiritual wisdom shared by all of humanity. It is the hidden library of the soul, where every archetype lives and breathes. The hero who rises against all odds, the mother who nurtures life, the warrior who defends truth, and the healer who restores balance. These archetypes are not distant myths, but living forces that dwell within you, shaping your dreams, guiding your instincts, and influencing your choices in ways you may not even notice. They whisper through your imagination, appear in your relationships, and reveal themselves in the patterns of your emotions. When you remain unaware of them, they move you like unseen hands, pulling you into repetitive cycles of fear, desire, or attachment. But when you become conscious of them, you begin to guide the story instead of being controlled by it. To access this deep dimension of the psyche is to step into the heart of spiritual awakening, where self-understanding turns into liberation. You start to recognize the sacred energies that move through you, the courage of the warrior when you face challenges, the compassion of the healer when you forgive, the strength of the mother when you protect what you love, and the clarity of the sage when silence reveals truth. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Once awareness dawns, fate transforms into choice, and choice becomes creation. You begin to sense that every emotion, every conflict, every dream is not random. It is a message from the collective unconscious calling you to integrate a forgotten part of yourself. This realization expands your mind beyond the personal and connects you with the timeless intelligence that lives in all beings. Spirituality, then, is not an escape from reality, but an awakening to its deepest design. It is the art of aligning your inner world with the rhythm of the cosmos, of remembering that you are not separated from life, but woven into its eternal tapestry. The more you listen to this hidden wisdom, the more peace and confidence arise within you, a calm that feels ancient, as if it has always known the way. You stop seeking external validation and begin to trust the quiet voice of your soul, which speaks with the authority of countless generations of human experience. Through this awareness, you enter the ocean of collective spirit, a boundless field of energy where all minds and hearts are subtly connected. Here, intuition becomes your compass, and your consciousness becomes a bridge between the visible and the invisible. You start to move through life with a grace that others cannot explain, guided by a force that feels both deeply personal and universally divine. This inner harmony gives birth to a strength that no chaos can shake, a knowing that no doubt can erase. It is the calm confidence of one who has awakened to their true nature, one who has touched the timeless wisdom that unites us all. This is the hidden truth of spiritual wisdom that Carl Jung revealed, that the deepest power does not come from domination or intellect, but from awareness of the eternal patterns living within the human soul. When you awaken to that truth, you do not just think, you remember. You do not just live. You embody the consciousness of humanity itself, moving with purpose, clarity, and an inner peace that terrifies the world because it cannot be controlled. 5. Individuation, the pinnacle of inner power. Individuation is the sacred process of returning to the authentic self, a journey where every hidden fragment of your soul finds its way back into harmony. It is not about becoming someone else or endlessly fixing what you think is wrong with you. It is about realizing that nothing was ever missing. In spirituality and spiritual development, this path is the highest calling of consciousness to dissolve the illusions that keep you separated from your own wholeness. You begin by removing the masks that once protected you, the roles you played to be accepted, the identities you wore to feel safe, and the ego's fragile armor that convinced you power came from control. True freedom comes the moment you stop pretending, when you no longer chase perfection, but instead embrace your imperfection as divine design. As Carl Jung taught, individuation is not self-improvement, but self-realization. It is the art of integrating shadow and light, pain and wisdom, chaos and calm into one complete soul. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your unrecognized power, the part of you waiting to be loved back into existence. When you accept it, the inner battle ends. You no longer reject your darkness or hide your light. You let both coexist, transforming inner conflict into inner peace. The more you unite these opposites, the more whole you become, and with wholeness comes a serenity that the world cannot disturb. You walk through life with quiet strength, unprovoked by chaos, unshaken by others' opinions, and unbothered by the noise of external expectations. Jung believed that when a person reaches this level of consciousness, they embody true power, the kind that radiates silently, needing no validation. Such a mind terrifies the world because it cannot be controlled. It belongs to someone who no longer lives through the projections of others, but from the deep stillness of their own truth. Their energy feels different, calm yet magnetic, peaceful yet commanding. They no longer chase outcomes because they understand that everything meant for them will unfold naturally through alignment, not force. they have mastered the art of surrender without losing their strength, of feeling deeply without losing their balance. Individuation transforms how you see everything. Pain becomes a teacher instead of an enemy. Rejection becomes redirection toward your soul's path. Endings no longer bring despair, but the birth of something new. The more you embrace this process, the more you realize that spirituality is not about escaping your humanity, but sanctifying it. Every wound, every fear, every emotion becomes sacred ground for awakening. Spiritual development, then, is not measured by how enlightened you appear, but by how whole, how honest, and how free you have become within yourself. When you integrate your light and shadow into one, you no longer seek the divine, you embody it. You become the living expression of inner peace, the mind so powerful and unshakable that it terrifies the world, not through dominance, but through the quiet, undeniable presence of truth. Affirm this truth today by commenting below. I am becoming the highest version of myself. Let this reminder anchor you in your journey of individuation, where self-awareness, spiritual wisdom, and inner power merge into divine alignment. 6. Training the mind. Daily practices for mental mastery. Strength is not something you are born with. It is something you shape through awareness, consistency, and spiritual discipline. Every day, your mind is either training itself to react or to respond. The difference lies in consciousness. Begin with self-observation without judgment. See your emotions as waves, not enemies. When anger rises, do not condemn it. When fear whispers, do not run. Just watch. The simple act of witnessing without labeling opens a sacred distance between you and the thought. In that space, freedom is born. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is the essence of spiritual wisdom, to see what moves you from within before it moves your life from without. From this awareness flows silence. True silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness, the place where your soul remembers itself. Through meditation, you return home to that inner sanctuary where thought dissolves and perception sharpens. It is in those moments that clarity emerges like dawn through fog, and you realize that peace was never something to find, but something to uncover. Every breath, taken in stillness, recenters the mind, making it an instrument of presence rather than a servant of chaos. Life will test this stillness with suffering. Pain is not punishment, it is instruction. When hardship appears, resist the urge to ask, "Why me?" Instead, ask, "What is this teaching me?" You will see that every wound carries a lesson, every failure a revelation. By transforming suffering into growth, you become the alchemist of your own life. The darkness you once feared becomes the soil where new strength takes root. Then comes the practice Jung called active imagination, a dialogue between consciousness and the deep, dreaming world within. When you converse with a symbol, a dream image, or a persistent emotion, you bridge the seen and unseen. You meet your shadow not as an adversary, but as a messenger. Through this inner conversation, your unconscious no longer rules from behind the curtain. It becomes a partner in creation. To sustain this dialogue, create personal rituals. Light a candle when you wake to honor awareness. Write one honest page before sleep to clear the mind. Place a hand over your heart before stepping into the world and whisper, "I am here." Rituals are anchors for the spirit. They transform routine into reverence and remind you that every ordinary moment hides an extraordinary opportunity to return to yourself. Another form of power lies in tolerating ambiguity. The mind craves answers, but wisdom grows in questions. Learn to breathe within uncertainty, to say, "I don't know, but I'm willing to learn." That willingness is courage. It is how you walk through the fog without losing direction. Every moment of ambiguity becomes an invitation to trust life's larger intelligence. The same intelligence that turns seeds into trees and thoughts into destiny. And above all, practice self-compassion. Speak to yourself as you would to a beloved friend. You are not a project to fix. You are a garden to tend. Growth is not linear, and mastery is not perfection. It is returning again and again to awareness, to kindness, to humility. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you combine this Stoic understanding with the depth of Carl Jung's teachings, you begin to see that true mental mastery is not detachment from emotion, but conscious participation in it. Power does not mean control. It means presence. It is the ability to stay open in the storm and still choose peace. Such calm terrifies the world because it cannot be manipulated. The powerful mind does not fight reality. It flows with it. It listens. It learns. It loves without losing center. Each day, you practice these truths: self-observation, silence, transformation, imagination, ritual, ambiguity, compassion. You forge a mind that glows quietly instead of burning out loudly. This is the kind of mind that changes the world not by force, but by frequency. This is not cold strength, but conscious light, the living expression of spiritual wisdom and the hidden truth Carl Jung tried to reveal, that the most powerful mind is the one that knows itself and walks through life awake. 7. The final truth. When you integrate your shadow and stop running from the parts of yourself you once denied, something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop fighting life, and life begins to flow through you. Carl Jung taught that the shadow is not evil. It is the doorway to power, authenticity, and self-realization. The moment you stop playing the victim and accept full responsibility for your inner world, your perception changes completely. You no longer see yourself as broken, but as becoming whole. This is the essence of spirituality, not the rejection of darkness, but the conscious integration of it. Through this deep inner reconciliation, your soul remembers its own completeness, and your spirit expands into awareness that cannot be shaken by external forces. In that awakening, control loses its grip on you. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth or explain your truth, because you finally understand that being real is far more powerful than being perfect. You live in alignment with your authentic self, and that alignment radiates a quiet strength. Your energy becomes still, but deeply magnetic, calm, yet commanding. This is the state of true spiritual awakening, the moment when your mind transcends the noise of the world and enters divine stillness. It is a peace so profound that it unsettles others, not because it is aggressive, but because it reflects their inner chaos. People who are still trapped in illusions feel this vibration and instinctively resist it. For an awakened mind cannot be controlled, influenced, or deceived. This inner mastery is what Jung called individuation, the sacred process of becoming whole. It is not a destination, but a lifelong transformation, a deep inner journey where your consciousness reconnects with the collective unconscious, that infinite field of spiritual wisdom that binds all souls together. When you reach this point, your thoughts no longer belong only to you. They echo the wisdom of generations. You start to see patterns where others see problems, meaning where others see madness. You become the still observer in a restless world, the one who can hold both light and darkness in perfect balance. In that stillness, your power becomes undeniable. The world cannot understand you, and that confusion turns into fear. But your power does not come from dominance, it comes from deep awareness. You are no longer chasing control, you are living in surrender. And that surrender is what makes you untouchable. You realize that true strength is not resistance, but understanding. Not force, but flow. Not reaction, but presence. You become both human and divine, a mirror reflecting the truth that every soul carries within. When your mind reaches this state of clarity, it becomes so powerful that it terrifies the world, not because it threatens others, but because it reveals what they have not yet faced within themselves. It is the light that exposes illusions, the silence that dismantles noise, the peace that conquers fear. You are no longer a participant in the chaos of the collective mind. You are the calm center through which consciousness evolves. This is the destiny of every awakened being, to live as pure awareness, untouched by illusion, radiating a presence that reminds the world of its own forgotten truth. To affirm your awakening to the highest truth, declare your alignment today. Comment below, "I stand in divine power." To honor your journey and remind others that true strength lies in self-realization and spiritual wisdom. In the end, when your mind becomes powerful enough to see through illusions and shape reality, it's not a threat to the world, it's a mirror that reveals its fears. Carl Jung reminded us that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. So, let your awareness deepen, let your consciousness expand, and never apologize for your spiritual power. Thank you for watching Spiritual Wisdom. If this message resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Your journey to higher understanding continues here.